and this is Stacy Emmert
And Rich Viola.
from InAlign Partners, and we're here, T.G.I. Friday. Cheers.
Cheers.
I don't know about anybody else, but the week surely went fast for me, and today we're sitting here with Joey Viola.
Right here,
Yeah.
in the flesh and blood.
Yeah. So the topic this week, we can talk general about generations, but in particular millennials and how much we love them or hate them. And we've got one with us, Joey.
Proud millennial.
Millennial with us as his own business, Spark Storytellers, and also a singer-songwriter. But thanks for joining us today.
Yeah.
Appreciate it. So maybe do a little bit of myth busting here. A lot of different research on the different generations, including our Stacy and I belong to the boomer category. Go boomers.
Yeah.
But it's so often that we're working with clients and inevitably somebody's lamenting the fact that they're working with a Gen X or a millennial or now lately a Gen Z. But millennials are the majority of the workforce right now and very soon going to be the majority of the leaders out in the business world today. And so taking a look at some of that research, you know, some of the key influences was 9/11, the Challenger disaster, cell phones, pagers, computers, instant access, IMing your entire life, everything's on social media, internet, and and the like. So
iPhone.
you know,
iPhone.
just starting there, I mean, does that research kind of make sense to you? And
Yeah, absolutely. I think the two events, particularly that you mentioned, definitely shell-shocked my world and a lot of my friends' worlds when that occurred. I was in third grade when 9/11 happened, but definitely something else. And then the instant access. I think everything. This is a mobile device, and it leaves you accessible to everything out there, and so there's definitely a good and a bad to that. But the I want it and I want it now is definitely big influencer on me and a lot of my friends. Not really, little to no patience as far as consuming and different things go.
yeah, and maybe I tend to describe it as kind of like the soundbite generation. You view things in sound bites. You want things in sound bites. Nothing too long. Quick
Absolutely.
hit. Give me the
Absolutely.
snippet. Ready,
There's
set, go.
More than 3 sentences, we're already checked out.
Got it.
So, additionally, yeah, and everything's a headline. I mean, if I pull up Instagram now and start scanning through, it's just one liner, all visual based.
Well, the name kind of says it.
Right, exactly. So you're just going at it, basically.
Right.
Yeah, as far as
Interesting.
information goes.
And then the research identifies values that millennials appreciate are safety, loyalty, security, and hope. Now, what's that make you think of? Is that
Yeah.
true or is that a myth?
I don't know. Personally, it makes me think of all of us naked with a blanket on, being swaddled by our parents. Which I think I've met a few millennials that meet that description, that are in their late 20s,
I'm
and still
telling
living in mom's basement and
I
things
actually
like
remember
that.
talking with a client and they were interviewing, and I almost said, you might have to call their parents. I'm serious.
Right, yeah. But for the most part, I mean, I think that's a pretty accurate description. I think one thing that technology has done to us, I think as a generation, is hinder us. While you have and you can access tons of information all with the click of a button, it leaves you glued to these things in a way that's a little scary for me. Just kind of watching society go by and everything's
Well, that's what I was going to ask. I mean, when is the time for thoughtfulness?
right.
I mean,
And discern whether or not whatever your headlines you're reading are factual.
Right.
Right? We've seen it on the political realm. Both sides just cranking out stories, and what's true anymore.
Right.
Well, no
What's
one
it
knows.
based? What's
I
it
think-
based on?
I think we'll know when we see a
Yeah.
big plume of smoke somewhere.
Yeah, there's no safe citation thing
Right.
for an Instagram account, so
So it is, it's disconcerting,
yeah.
to me.
And it's not like we really have a grip on what's actually going on.
Mhm.
You know, this isn't going to be conquered by one person saying, "Oh, I'm going to put my phone down."
I know.
You know, it's kind of a global wide, not an epidemic, but I would say it's getting there.
Right.
So
And you know, I've had offline conversations about this. When you were describing the headline news and all that, all I could think of is the John Daly,
yeah, the Daily Show.
the Daily
Yeah.
Show, and how many people use that as their real news.
That's their trusted resource
and that
for
is
news.
that's
right?
funny.
Yeah.
That's so funny. So jump into another area of the research: work preferences and styles. You know, you guys, millennials, typically like to see a diverse work environment, or diverse culture, collaborative, meaningful work, fun at work, and flexibility.
Right. And that's a lot. That's a long list for employers to figure out.
Right.
So kudos to the employers. I know it's been hard for a lot of companies to keep millennials around, just because of the fact that they have a very strict list of what they want and what they need. And if they don't have it, like we said earlier, they can go anywhere, they can do anything. So they're dropping the ball and running.
Right.
Okay.
And what's interesting is there's a confidence in that, but there's also a little bit of a brashness about it.
Right.
So I know what I'm.
Who are you, man?
I know what I'm.
What
good
are
at.
you doing?
And
Yeah.
I'm not gonna wait for you to get on my bandwagon.
Right.
This is what I'm looking
Right.
for. And on the flip side of that, we've worked and counseled and coached clients who are our generation or the older traditional generation, trying to figure out what the heck is this new group doing and what are they thinking. And so they always think of, you know, they just don't have the right work ethic. Well, it's not necessarily right or wrong. It's absolutely different,
Mm-hmm.
and it's trying to figure that out, because what I can tell you too, out of the millennials that I've observed and had a chance to work with, is very bright, very smart. They think through a lot of ideas of possibilities. They think
Mhm.
about possibilities, and they don't really lament or struggle with all the possible what ifs, like all the constraints. Oh, I can't do this, or what if. They just say, hey, let's do this.
I'm going into
Let's
it. Yeah.
go and try it, and if it doesn't work out, we'll bring it back to something else. As far as meeting career needs, and we're kind of talking to some of this, is they like to have defined career path opportunities. So no matter if you started yesterday or you're about to start next week, you want to know what your next job is. Not the one that you're going into.
Right.
What's my path and how fast can I get there? What do I have to do to prove myself?
Mhm.
Which is cool, but also can be threatening to whoever you're going to
Absolutely.
work for.
Yeah.
This is a good one. Real-time feedback and progress and alignment. So we use the term sometimes a lot of care and feeding.
Yes.
We know a lot of millennials like to be patted on the back
Yep.
and recognized
Absolutely.
a lot. So,
Yeah, and it goes back to those values: safety, loyalty, security, and hope. Just wanting to feel, okay, am I good? Am I good? Because there's a lot of there's widespread anxiety, just general anxious tones throughout all millennials.
And even
Me included,
even
so.
beyond that, I mean, on the news last week, the counselor for OSU Living was on,
Mhm.
and he said that the number of visits to that office had doubled with anxiety and depression. And these kids are young. I mean, they're not even out of college yet, and they're already one was like, well, I'm already on anxiety pills.
Right.
So, you know, when you talk about the iPhone and the epidemic, we gotta do something about that anxiety.
Right. And I think part of it is we've grown up in such a materialistic worldview. We were brought up in the 90s when it was there was a relatively economic boom.
Yeah.
goods were mass produced, we started buying and buying and buying, and that's this consumer culture has taught us that that's how we find fulfillment.
Yeah.
And what you're viewing now is a bunch of people now in their 20s and 30s that are saying, what is real
Yeah.
in my life?
Bingo. I was coming back to, with all the electronics and the social media and soundbite, after a while, you're starting to wonder what's real
Right.
in all the reality shows. What's
yeah.
real, and am I out of sync? Or should I just turn all this stuff off and go out and take a long walk and
Right.
interact with people?
Right.
And I think that is a blend that
Absolutely.
needs to happen. So, to kind of summarize all this and maybe give some advice to folks out there, whether they're the millennials trying to start to lead other groups, including boomers, and or leaders that are actually still in the boomer category. How do you best partner and work with millennials?
I would say, first and foremost, the initial thought that comes to mind is just authenticity. Just laying it all out on the table, spelling it all out. Like, that clear communication is very important to us as a generation, I think, and getting that security and knowing where we're at. So that real-time feedback, things like that are great. As far as millennial leaders go, I think it's the same thing. Just being authentic and being that real voice in a sea of distorted reality, if you will.
Right. So
Yeah.
good deal.
And I think the companies that really make it a priority to get involved with the community and get their staff plugged in
Absolutely.
to community make a difference too.
Yeah, I think there's also a level of authenticity with some of the things that they're trying to do as far as engaging millennials. Offering a flexible work schedule is one thing, but as far as the kind of like creative workspace, I've seen a lot of employers do it, but it feels really, really forced for a lot of people.
Yeah.
So, and that can sometimes be the opposite of what you want. A little bit painful for everyone to go to like the pizza party on Friday. So
Yeah.
there's a level of, again, authenticity and let's make this real. That I think is
I
important.
think to make it real means that we have to be vulnerable.
Right.
And we have to say,
Right.
this is
Right.
way out of my
Tough
comfort
for
zone.
boomers
This,
sometimes.
Yes.
right?
Yes.
This is way out of my
Right,
comfort
right,
zone.
Yeah, that's a necktie loosener. Yeah.
Well, on that note,
Well,
loosen your necktie.
Yeah, loosen your necktie.
Have
and
a
so on.
drink and have a great weekend.
Enjoy.
Cheers.
Take care.